Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suzanne Hoffman, and I am the Superintendent of Schools here in the Vancouver School District. And I would like to acknowledge that the Vancouver School District resides on the traditional unceded territory of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh people. And we are thankful for the opportunity to live, learn, work, and play on their land. Thank you for joining us today. Before I make a couple of opening comments, I wanted to start by doing very quick thank yous so that I don't forget. Sarah, Rowena, and Jeff from VSB, thanks for pulling this together at our end, and to Robyn and Renee with Microsoft, thank you for being a part of the day, and I know we're anxious and eager to hear what it is that you have to say to support all of our community as we go forward with this work. I am pleased as Superintendent of Schools with the team's work that has taken place so far. My line is we have fundamentally shifted the delivery of education in such a very short amount of time. And for this platform, the use of it, we are thankful, and it has really enabled us to do our work in a very, very different way. For the parents that are listening and family members, I want to acknowledge the complexities of the time in which you find yourself. There has been extraordinary efforts on everybody's part, and I know as parents, when you're trying to juggle helping your children with school, whatever work you may be trying to do, and just manage the stress and anxiety that is very pervasive throughout our community, it's a lot to ask. And I'm thankful that you are able to find this time as we look for ways to better support you, as you support your children during these times and as we go forward. So my thanks to you for your work so far. I'm hoping that you find, and I'm sure you will based on the script I've seen, find this session incredibly informative and just with some tips, not only about Microsoft Teams, but just how in general to support your children through these times. As we look ahead to next week with some returning to school and others continuing to work remotely, and we anticipate and start to plan for what September will look like. We're pleased to provide this support for you. So over to you, Jeff, for a continuation of this Lunch and Learn opportunities for parents and guardians within our school district. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Good morning, or I guess good afternoon now. My name is Jeff Spence. I'm Vice Principal of Learning Information Technology at the Vancouver School Board. And one of the big roles in the last 2 months has been our shift to a higher profile of learning at home and online learning. And so my screen is being shared right now. And I would like to just acknowledge all of the work that's been done as well. I'm very proud of all of the teachers. I am a teacher as well, and I taught in a high school for 25 years. And it's a big shift to all of a sudden have to do what you've been doing for such a long time, but from at home. So I'm very proud of the teachers and everybody working to create this online learning environment, just in these conditions that we've been given. One of the first things that we did from the Learning Information Technology Department, LIT department, is we loaned out 1,700 or more devices to families that didn't have devices at home. That was our very first step. Once we were able to have students connected, it fell upon the teachers and administrators to learn how to run meetings online, how to get themselves organized at the school level before we were even able to invite students back. That's what happened over March break and in the first week after March break. So students may have felt, oh, we had a week off, where teachers and administrators were furiously getting the system in place so that we could have a continuation of learning. Teachers jumping in created more than 7,000 classrooms to connect with students. It was amazing to watch that took place because many teachers didn't really know how to use the technology. They're not super comfortable with computers in general, and by helping each other down the hall, across the city, it was amazing to watch how all of these teachers were just working together. 7,000 classrooms and families. Don't forget about you, the families, adapting to learning from home is a very stressful situation to all of a sudden have your kids around all the time. Remember always throughout all of this that health and safety is our top priority. Before learning is even available to us, we have to make sure that we're looking after each other. And so with that, I would like to just say, what are the goals for today? So our goals for today are, first, Renee, a Microsoft educator, is going to walk you through how to ask any questions in our live Q&A format. Then we would like to go on and talk about what is the technology and software that's available to students and families throughout British Columbia, and more specific in Vancouver. We'll discuss in depth a bunch of the Office 365 platform tools we use, as well as how do we communicate with students? How are teachers communicating with students? Many of you have already seen Microsoft Teams. And we would like to wrap up with a couple of different things. One is just some advice on successful things that have been happening at home. I hear many stories of excellent things from teachers and from families. And Renee would like to point out some of the cool Microsoft tools. Maybe you know about them, maybe you don't. This would be a great review for those of you who have seen it. And we'll wrap up with where parents and guardians can get more information. Throughout all of this, we're going to pause and we'll address any of the Q&A that is really appropriate at the moment. Other than that, we'll have a website available with this as a live this live event is going to be recorded, and it'll be available for your review later. And with that, I think I would like to hand this over to Renee just for a short tutorial about how parents or guardians at home can access the Q&A. Go ahead, Renee.
Thank you, Jeff, and good afternoon. Happy lunch hour to everybody on the call. So my name is Renee. This is what my voice sounds like. I'm not going to share my screen just yet. I will quickly just point out that if you touch your cursor, if you're using a traditional laptop or computer, you'll see a black bar across the bottom of the presenter's screen, and then you will be able to see an option for Q&A. It looks like two little chat icons. This may also be on your right-hand side automatically for you. So when you toggle over to that, you're able to ask questions. Please don't be shy. Feel free to type in any questions that you may have, whether they be VSB related, policies, procedures, things like that, whether they be Microsoft related. So we encourage all questions. We will do our best to answer all of them, either the Microsoft folks or the VSB folks. And hopefully that suffices for right now, Jeff, and we'll dive a bit deeper later.
Sounds great.
Okay, so I'm turning it back over to Jeff.
Okay.
Or should we?
No, that's good. Yep, screen's on.
Your screen is being shared.
Excellent. So one of the things that I've learned as a teacher is that the classroom environment is so social and learning is super social. It's not enough just to sit down, crack open a book and tell students to do things. I spent an enormous amount of time getting to know my students, getting to know what their story is, and then we would interweave all of our personal lives throughout the classroom. As soon as we are split apart, there is this sense of loss. And so how do we overcome that? In terms of using Microsoft Teams, fortunately, we're able to connect with students. We can't meet at school all together in one place, but we can be all together in one place on Microsoft Teams. So it's a video conferencing, a video tool, as well as it allows you to do a whole bunch of classroom related things. So it's not a replacement for face-to-face, but it's what we have been doing and what probably we're going to be doing for up to another year. What Teams is, it's just going to bridge this gap so that we can be together again, so that teachers can connect with their students. We use it extensively for business meetings, but I've used it also with students. It offers some of the classroom organizing tools, the ability to do assignments if teachers like, and importantly, it offers the ability to do the video and audio meeting. Many classes are using this. Some teachers are not using it. Maybe they're using something they had already established before. That's excellent. Connecting with kids, that's the main thing. But as an adult at home, you might be looking over the shoulder of your children or of the students that you're working with, and you'll be, oh, who is that on that video with you? What are you doing? And sometimes kids are really embarrassed because their parents come in the background. You can see, here's the background of my office. And so, you know, be respectful that the kids are on a classroom call at that time. And you can remind your kids, hey, tell me when you're on a call so that I don't interrupt you. Also, there's background sounds that come on when you have the microphone. The microphones on laptops are extremely sensitive. And so be really aware of what's going on in your house, what's going on visually and auditory when your kids are engaged in a classroom meeting. So fortunately, with the expertise of Renee and Microsoft, she has a pretend classroom set up with pretend students that she's allowed to share with you, and she can walk you through kind of what it'll look like and what some of the buttons do that you may see on the screen of the younger people at home. Go ahead, Renee.
Thank you, Jeff. And Robyn, if you give me a green light, I will share my screen.
Green light.
Thank you. So before we even jump into Teams today, I would love to make sure that as a parent community, guardian community, you are aware of what you have available to you or what your student has available to them with Microsoft. So at the Vancouver School Board, all students have access to Office 365. Office 365 is the digital suite of tools available to you, or to your student, rather. And to access this, your student is simply going to go to office.com, which is where we went here, and sign in. So on the right-hand side here, you'll see I am signed in as a student named Terry. And this is Terry's account. This is a complete false demo account, so there's no student information being shared here. Once you're signed in, what you will see is all of the apps that your student has available to them. You can even click on all apps here and take a look at all the things. Again, it might not look exactly like this, but you will have all kinds of excellent tools available for learning and extracurricular projects and fun things your students might like to get up to. So this is their Office portal. You'll also might see some files that they're working on, things like that. The beauty of office.com, or using Office applications online, is that you or your student can access this from anywhere. That means if they are at home using the home computer, if they are at a friend's house, if they are visiting, a library and other times, or if they're at school, no matter where they go, even on their cell phones, they can go to office.com, sign in, and know that they have access to all of these tools, as well as their work and their files. So their work is going to be housed in an application called OneDrive. This is the brand name for Microsoft's cloud. So it's sort of the Kleenex to our tissue. This is where all of the files that your student might be working on should be saved. That is what makes them accessible from anywhere, because they're saved online. So working in OneDrive is a great practice to have your students save their work there, whether it's a Microsoft file like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whether it's a video they've made on their phone or a picture that they've taken that they want to share with class. Using OneDrive is going to help them store their work. One of the applications here is Microsoft Teams. That means when your students are looking to get online with their classmates and their teacher, they can navigate to office.com, they can sign in, and this is where their apps will be, and one of them will be Teams. They can launch Teams, which we'll do momentarily. You'll see it's already actually launched just over here. However, what you can do from here is actually install office.com. You'll see where my cursor is right now. This will allow you to download these applications so that they're available physically on the computer, on the iPad, on the phone, whatever it is that you are using. You can download the desktop versions. So you have, I think, depending on the license, you should have at least a few downloads available, which means you can put them on your student's device, on your home device, whatever you have available to you. If you'd like the desktop versions, this is where you would go ahead and install those applications to your computer. Now, there are some differences between the online versions and the desktop versions, but there is no reason that your student can't work just online or just on the desktop version. All the good stuff is available on both. They're quite comparable. With that said, we're going to jump into Microsoft Teams. I'm going to launch Teams, so I would normally click on this button. I've already done that, so you'll see it's open right over here. Jeff, I can see your video. If you want to give me a thumbs up to keep going, or if you'd like me to pass it back, and then we can come back to Teams in a sec.
No, I think keep on going. This is great.
Okay, perfect. So this is what it looks like when you jump into Microsoft Teams. Your student is going to see a number of different blocks. Bear in mind that this is a demo, so you're going to see a bit of a mishmash here. Obviously, if I was an elementary student, we might just see Miss Coleman's grade 4's Division 4B. That's telling me that that is my student's class space. All of these little squares here are depicting the student communities that your child is a part of. So there might be classes like algebra, physical science, there might be high school classes, language arts, there might be elementary. Instead of classes, just simply one collaborative space. They might also see squares for extracurricular things. You might be part of a student club or a student activity or a sports team. So you might also see other sort of collaborative spaces here. But this is their main page, and every student space is going to start looking like this. Down the left-hand side here is your navigation. So when your student comes into this space, they're going to be able to navigate through using these buttons. Alrighty, and they can also obviously jump into any one of these spaces themselves. So for today's sake, we're actually going to hop into physical science, and then I'll go into an elementary example as well, just to take a look at what this team space might look like. You'll notice that some, actually all of mine, are bold. That means that there's things happening in these teams I haven't seen yet. I haven't clicked on them since the last thing that was posted. So a good practice is when you come online in the morning is to click into each team to check all your updates. If I go into physical science, it's going to open up the team and it's going to show you what this space looks like. Now I know there's a lot going on here, but once you know what everything does, it's pretty simple to navigate. Within my physical science team or my class, I have what we call channels. These are divisions of the class. Now there's lots of different examples here. No particular teacher would maybe look the same necessarily. So we have some, for example, extra credit corner. We have an office hours that's been set up for an educator to chat with their students. We might have one channel called questions on the assignment. Perhaps we have a socializing channel. We're seeing teachers use sort of a fun stuff or social channel to allow students to just simply interact to help promote, friendships and connections and well-being while we are in a remote learning scenario, or partially so. Or you might see different subjects and units. If maybe this is an elementary class, and if it's just a homeroom, we can divide it by art, language, science, things like that. So there's lots of different examples. Naturally, things that are bold are things that have not been checked yet. So again, best practice, your student comes online and they should start to kind of go through any updates in these channels that they haven't seen yet. Typically in your general channel is where everything's sort of going to happen. So your students are going to jump online and the first thing you'll see is the general channel. Now this space up the kind of main space here is where everything's going to be posted. So as we scroll up, you'll notice that some assignments have been posted. Don't worry, there's an easy place to track those too. You'll notice there's some videos that are in here. We have some PDFs, some announcements. So our teacher Kara said there was a holiday last week. Some more assignments as we scroll up. We had a meeting or a class call booked in here. We have quiz reviews, more class calls. So we had a poll. This was about what people were having for lunch. So you can see that this is really where the substance of your course, your students' class lives. All right. The other place, so we talked about the me space, which is the menu specific to the user, so specific to your student. This is going to be their activity, their teams, their assignments, and I'll go through that as well. But this is all the stuff related to your student. Across the top here is a menu called the we space, and this is all the stuff related to that class. So that means as your student jumps into this space, if they need to access any files for that class, those will be in the files section. If they need to access the class notebook, and again, I should have started with this, but not all teachers are going to design this space the same way. Teams is a really nice customizable application, so you'll always have a team and you'll always have channels, but this space and the main post can be quite different. Some teachers may use a class notebook, which is a digital binder. Essentially, I'll give you a sneak peek. This is where a lot of the course material might live, resources, handouts, things like that. When your students clicks onto this binder, it's just opening up here. You'll notice that they have a few tabs. So this student's name is Terry, and Terry can go into their own personal binder, and you'll see the little sections separated by little tabs here, just like they would be in the physical world. And he has lots of different sections, and he can go into his homework section and look at the pages in this part of his binder. So there's lots of pages here, and we can go ahead and take a look at some of them. And this is his space, so he can use this to practice. He can make pages himself, or the teacher can also distribute pages. Alternatively, there's the content library, and that is maybe if a teacher is choosing to use class notebook, where some of the lessons and handouts might live as well. So this typically tends to be the substance of a course, if, like I said, a teacher chooses to do so. You'll notice this is read only in the content library. Your students just meant to look and interact, but not edit, and then they have their own binder to work in. So that's the class notebook piece. Again, posts is your main announcement boards, what's new, what's going on, communication, where your meetings will be hosted. Files are where students might go to find things that their teacher has shared. Maybe a policy and procedures of how to work in this space, any videos about, welcome to our new team. Class notebook is that binder full of material where your student can go and access work from class. And then you'll have assignments. I'd like to point out that the assignments feature up here, you'll notice it also exists over in the me space. You'll see assignments as well. The difference is that these on the me space are assignments, all the assignments across every team for your student. In this case, these will be all the assignments for the physical science class. Now, it's a great practice as you work with your student to have them select assignments for you, or come on over and do it with them and say, let's take a look. This is basically almost a digital agenda. So we're going to see what assignments are out and across all of the courses. Now, a student might not be in all of these courses, but if we, for example, check out algebra and hit next, you'll see that unfortunately we have some that are past due, but we have one due on the 29th, so an assignment here. These are the ones that are assigned. You'll also be able to see the ones that are completed. So just again, down this me space, one of the tabs is assignments, and you can select the class. So we've selected algebra. If it was a younger grade level, it would probably be just one single class. And then you can see what is needing to be accomplished. So we'll click on this one that's due on May 29th, and you'll jump into a space where you get a little bit more information. This is what it looks like when your student is ready to turn something in. I can stop there, or should I just keep on tracking? I know you had some tips and tricks, Jeff, if you'd like to pause and speak to other best practices before we keep going.
I think pause just for a second.
Yeah.
And then keep your screen ready to come back to this.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, you can even keep sharing the screen. That's totally okay with me, Robyn. So sitting on here, parents and guardians at home, how do you monitor what's going on? And I was watching the Q&A. There's a question that says, I'd like to see what my son or daughter is doing. Can I read their notes? Can I go in and look at it? Because when I do, then it looks like it's already been read, but the kids haven't read it yet. The students haven't read it. So what I would recommend, parents do not have access into Teams. Teams is the learning environment, like the classroom environment. In the same way, parents don't generally attend classes when kids are at regular school. So what you do to monitor your kids is you ask them to show you. Sit down, ask them, hey, log into Teams. Let's see what you're doing in your math class. Let's see what you're doing in grade 4. When's your next meeting? So by having this side-by-side experience, we're hoping that parents will be able to monitor what's going on, be able to give any feedback. In terms of contacting teachers, the teachers all prefer to receive emails from parents and keep the in the classroom Teams as the student to teacher contact point. That being said, not all teachers are using Teams. They've been requested to use Teams to host meetings, but in terms of delivering content or organizing things, what about those teachers who previously perhaps they were using Moodle? Maybe they were using a classroom blog, and they're already well established. The procedures were already there, and there was no need to deviate. So don't run and yell at any teachers and say, you haven't been using Teams, because teachers have the option to use Teams to organize. Perhaps you'll go to a team and it says, hey, I'm using my blog, and there's only one post and it has a link to their blog. Chances are, as parents, you've already seen those circumstances. So some teachers are using Teams, some are using Teams for a little bit, and some are using Teams full blown. What do you do at home? It gets so confusing, especially if it's a high school student and you have 8 different classes, maybe even 9 or 10 different classes with different teachers doing different things. So we're hoping that every teacher is using Teams as a touch point, even though it may just link through to other types of content on the web, whether it be a Moodle classroom or a blog. That way, parents can help out and help to monitor by seeing all of the teams all in one spot. What are some other things, though, that you could do to set the students up at home for success? I've found that the comments coming back to me, and my own personally, because my kids are students in Vancouver, is we have the time of day when school starts. I expect them to wake up, maybe have a shower, have breakfast, and be ready for school at a specific time. This is negotiated as your family. My kids are teenagers, so it's a little bit later than a usual 8:30 or even an 8 a.m. start. In my house, class starts at 10. They have all of their meetings and homework. They work throughout the day until school is done, until they've completed what the goals were of the day. So where do they do that, though? I require that they get up, they get dressed. They're not lounging around in their pajamas all day. They are ready to work, and we have an area set up. It happens to be our kitchen table because we don't have like a separate room or an office just for school to take place. So the kids will sit at the kitchen table, and that's where school happens. Every so often, one of the adults in the house will walk by, say, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? We kind of look and see what's going on in the different teams or homework, if they have any questions. And so we do our best to participate, knowing that often I'm working from at home and my wife is working from home, but we have our own things to do too. So it's different for every family. You need to do what works for you. But I have seen that having a strict time for waking up and getting to it, and having a definite place is an excellent way to set some routines, in the same way that regular school, kids are expected to get dressed for regular school and show up at a very specific time. Renee, how about jump back in and finish off with Teams before we go on, and we'll show people where there's lots of other resources.
Yeah, absolutely. So to Jeff's point about sort of creating that routine and that structure, I love that idea, and we've seen that idea across the country with different educators and student communities that we're supporting. One way to do that, obviously that's easier, is if you have an idea of what needs to be accomplished. Typically, assignments are not coming out one night and do the next one, just like we hope that they're not always like that in the physical classroom as well. So having an understanding that maybe, especially at the younger grades, one morning we're going to work on science, that afternoon, we're going to work on an art project. We're going to go outside for different activities, and being able to structure a day based on what you know your child has to complete that week. So getting a nice overview, which is coming back to assignments here, of what needs to be done. And a lot of teachers, again, to Jeff's point, will use Teams in different ways. They may only be having some virtual calls here and then having a lot of content elsewhere, whether it be Moodle or on a course content blog. And your student will be familiar with that, which is excellent. We want to create that consistency so that they know where to access things. We know it's a learning curve, not just for our educators, but for our students as well, and you, the parent community. So any kind of consistency we highly recommend, and repetition from things that have always existed. So a course blog is a great example of that if students are familiar with their teacher's blog. In this example, what we're showing here is by clicking on assignments in the Me space, again, we can see all of the assignments. One of them that we went into is due this week. And we can go ahead and click on it. Now there's not a lot of instruction here. This was a sample. Our hope is that some of your assignments will have a bit more to them, but you'll notice that this is due Friday. It says evaluate the expressions, show your work. It's worth 100 points. And although it's not exactly clear what we're asking to do here, there will always be an option to add work and then turn it in. And that's really what we're hoping our students will do. Based on a more in-depth instructions, our student can click add work, and they can upload virtually anything, a Word doc, an Excel doc, anything that's either Microsoft or not. They can even upload a link. So if this task was to film themselves doing a video, if the task was a website coding project, if the task was simply a picture of an art project that they did at home, they can upload a link. They can even create a new file right here. So if that means that quickly we just open a new Word doc and I say, evaluate the expression number 3, because we do this weekly, I can hit attach. And I've actually attached some work. Now that Word document I know is empty because I just made it. So I can click in, and without actually leaving Teams, notice this purple bar means that we're still working in Teams. I've opened up a Word document, and I can edit in the browser, which means not leaving my page, and I can actually begin to work on this document. And I can close it, and when I'm ready, I can hit turn in. So I can say, evaluate, whoops, the expression, and I can work through all kinds of problems, whether they're written, long answer, qualitative problems, whether we're doing some work. Also, depending on the device you might be using, you might have different options depending on the version of Word. And if you don't like working on the web, which is what we're doing here, you can always click Open in Desktop App, and that's going to open the full version on your computer. The beauty of this is that it's already saved online. So notice that it says saved. Your student doesn't have to go Files, Save As. When they're working on the web, and if they created that document, I'll show you how to do it again, this file is automatically saved. So when I hit close, that updated file is right there. I can click on it again, and I can keep working, and then I can hit, well, I'll hit edit, keep on working, and when I'm ready, I'll hit turn in. So that's one way of doing this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to open up maybe an older assignment. Just quickly find a better example here. Well, either way, you'll notice that in this case, so this is a returned assignment. So here it'll say returned Saturday, March 14th at the time, and it'll tell you how many points it was worth. So this is letting you know that this assignment's actually come back. If the teacher has said, you know, that they can rewrite it for extracurricular or extra credit, you can turn in again. So this teacher in this case has selected, this button won't always be available. The teacher has made it an option to let the work be redone. So you can resubmit work here and turn it in again if you'd like to. So that's one thing that's possible. We can also, let me see, what is in assignment 12 here? Okay, this is another great example. So this assignment, again, similar, is a little bit more robust. You'll notice because we've missed the due date, it says turn in late, but turn-ins are still available. This one says watch the live course recording, and I'm going to show you where you might find those. And then use the attached resources and read the articles. And then they've actually already attached a document here. Now this is a bit of the nitty-gritty of Teams, but we're just showing you a couple different ways teachers might ask your students to produce some work. So in one example here, we have the reference material. So this is a web link our students can go to watch an online video. We actually have a full rubric attached. So if you'd like to know the credentials for a project, the rubric would be here. This one's, you know, a little bit rough and not quite completed, but rubric might be there as well. And then instead of adding work, of course, your student can do that as well, but there's a document already in here that says student responses. And this is where your student's going to click. They don't need to save. They don't need to do anything. They can simply click and then hit edit in browser and start to write their responses right here. So a simple workflow, we hope. Students can write responses. There may already be questions on here from the teacher. They can hit close. It's going to automatically save and then turn in. So that is sort of the assignments workflow. I'll take a couple steps back here and we'll head on back to Teams. Remember, we were checking out our physical science team. I'll head even further back again. This is what it looked like. We signed into Office, we opened Teams. These are my student spaces. But I quickly want to do a quick check-in with my student today, you know, midweek, and I'm going to say, let's go to your assignments tab and just take a look, let them drive, let them navigate, and say, okay, you got a number of courses. Let's check out what's going on in algebra. And we can open it up and we can say, all right, well, you missed some deadlines, but maybe, you know, we're being lenient. And again, I encourage you to be forgiving because teachers are learning this technology at the same time as the students. So there might be things in here that genuinely aren't supposed to be due. They've just been there as a practice. But we can say, all right, you have something due Friday. Let's take a look. We can open that up. We can see the instructions, the work, anything like that. And then we can turn it in when we're ready. All right, so that is a big piece. Now, the last piece to that is when work has been turned in, we're going to head back into our team. In this case, we've gone into physical science. If you remember, I had showed you posts and files and class notebook. Assignments, similar to the button over here, will show you the assignments for this course. But the last one here is grades. And when we click on grades, big if, a teacher is choosing to grade using Teams, you will be able to see all of the assignments and the status of them, whether they've been returned, turned in, not turned in, and then points and grades associated. Now, bear in mind, not all teachers are using grades right now. We're trying to do a lot of competency feedback just because we're learning remotely. So you might not see grades, you might not see any of this, but if the teacher is using it, this is where you will access your grades. So grades for this course specifically, assignments for this course specifically, notebooks, files, and posts, all for the physical science course. And then anything past grades is really going to be what your teacher sets up for you. So in this example, what's really nice is a teacher has set up the daily agenda. So my student knows that they can come online and they can every day, this has obviously not been updated, but they can say, okay, what's my task? Where do I find the instructions? And where am I going to do my work? And so this is saying pick a topic, the instructions are in assignments, and then please post your topic idea to the post section in the announcements. So perhaps this is one way of doing it. There might be other activities. Typically things pinned up to the top here are important. So our digital pledge means teaching students how to be good digital citizens, how to act online, different things like that. Anything important will kind of get pinned to the top. So again, quick recap, this is that we space, which is the robust area your teacher can create for your student, indicating all that's going on in this course. The channels It's good to take a look at them. If you see anything about office hours, Q&As, homework help, extra credit, that's where you know your student can go in and receive some extra support if they need it. And then general navigation outside of this particular team is going to happen in the me space, where you can access all kinds of good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and show you about a live class call. So using that meeting feature. Jeff, do you want to take a pause or take it on back for a sec?
Sure, let me just address one or two of the questions that have come up just in a broad sense. This is kind of about the relationship or the partnership with Vancouver School Board and Microsoft. So Microsoft Teams it originally began as an Office corporate tool. So everyone is created equal. It's all about collaboration. Fast forward to the last couple of years as Microsoft is entering the education market, we're looking at a different dynamic between teacher and students. We like lots of collaboration, but there's times where teachers need to take a little bit more control of the classroom. And so whether that is in a meeting or in a chat or in the actual Teams classroom proper. And so we are working closely with Microsoft to help to implement all of these changes and the new versions of Teams Classroom that'll be coming out over the summer is just ongoing, whether it's a Teams meeting that prior could only have 4 faces on it and now can have 9 faces on it, or a lecture style in the meeting where now you can raise your hand to ask a question rather than having students interrupt or teachers not knowing that the students have questions. All the way to the type of rubrics that we would like to see implemented that align with the British Columbia curriculum. Keeping in mind that Microsoft is a multinational corporation. Teams is not just for British Columbia. Teams is for the whole world. And so we're super fortunate to have Renee and Robyn coaching us through all of the educational side of this, but we also work with the engineers on the actual platform itself. And there's a lot of things that we would like to see in terms of changes that are implemented. So we look forward to seeing some of those in the fall. I'd like to hear, Renee, a little bit about immersive reader.
Hey, Renee, go ahead and come off mute and you are live.
Awesome. I'm excited to show immersive reader. Hopefully you can still see my screen. You should be able to. Just quickly again to Jeff's point, Robyn and I are both educators. I've been working with the VSB for almost 4 years now, in addition to a lot of the other school districts in the Lower Mainland and across BC. We actually, moments before this call, just came from a training with the University of Victoria. So in the same sort of capacity. So we have been working closely with teachers and sort of trying to help them embrace these tools. But of course, our role has always been not telling the VSB what to do, but saying we're here for training if you need us. So it is a school district first initiative, most certainly. With that said, I am going to quickly just show how you would get onto a call. If a teacher is hosting calls, again, we're going to pop back into the science team here, and you'll notice in the posts that there will be scheduled calls. So typically they might be once a week. This is an old example, but you'll see here we have science class. This was from May 13th. And what a student will do when this call is scheduled is simply click on that call. They will also see the call in the calendar as well. And then from here, they can just hit join. And join is going to bring them into a community with their teacher, with their classmates. Again, to Jeff's point, there's going to be video potentially. Here's how you can turn video and mics off. And in this space, they can actually raise their hand. We have a chat so that if they don't feel comfortable talking, they can just chat on the side here. But this is what a meeting space would look like with a teacher and a student. Of course, there's nobody here right now. This is an old call. So I will dismiss this. Your student will also be able to see this in their calendar. So in a calendar, all of the classes that a teacher has scheduled will appear here. So if we go back, I don't know, there's not too many. There's one, so we had a science class that call. We'll go back a little bit more and see what else is in here. We had an algebra class call. So your student will be able to see when they should be jumping on their class calls using the calendar. And even from here, it's as simply as clicking on that meeting and hitting join. Okay, what I would absolutely love to show you is, once again, Immersive Reader. Immersive Reader is an accessibility tool made by Microsoft. Is one of many, but it is probably my favorite accessibility tool. It actually exists in so many different applications. So one of those, we're going to open up an assignment here. Maybe not this one. Let's find a nice. Okay. Let's say that this had a lot of instruction, or I'm a student who maybe has trouble reading, or maybe I'm an English language learner, or maybe this is helpful for the parent community as well. If you have any kind of text on a page in Microsoft Teams, you will often see this button over here, a little book with a speaker called Immersive Reader. Immersive Reader is going to allow you to open up what's on the screen in a way that makes it really easy to comprehend, and the settings will be saved. Okay, before I actually even, let's go ahead and click on Immersive Reader. So what Immersive Reader has just done is it's actually taken that text and it's brought it up into this reader. It has not changed the work itself. So when I hit this big exit arrow, this is still my assignment, but I'm having a hard time understanding what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to click Immersive Reader again. You'll notice it's nice and big. It's on this bright blue background because that's a setting that as somebody with a colored seeing disability, perhaps, this is what looks good to me. Right from here, I can actually play out loud.
Physics practice quiz. Due May 22nd, 2020, 2:59 a.m. Instructions. Please fill this out by Friday.
So I can have it read out loud to me. I can choose whether I'd like a female or male voice, and I can set the speed from turtle to bunny. And then I have three main buttons here that customize this reader for me. And however it is I like to use this reader across all the Office 365 tools, so OneNote, Word, once I set it, it'll remember the features that I like. So I can set the text size. I can set the spacing, so increase or decrease. The font, if there's one that's easier for me to read. And then the color background. So you'll notice we're on this bright blue, but there's so many colors here. Anybody who has a sort of a color disability or difficulty seeing certain colors will appreciate this. We'll keep it on this one for the example right now. Then our next button is the grammar options. You'll notice that we have nouns turned on, but if I am either learning a language or learning how to read, how to conjugate, we can turn on these parts of speech. And we can also choose to show the labels of those parts of speech if we'd like. And we can break it up by syllables, like I said. And then the final one is the reading preferences. So if I have a student that prefers a line focus, we can set that line focus to 1, 3, or 5 lines. I'll turn this off for now. And we have Picture Dictionary. This is in partnership with Boardmaker, which means if you need to click, it doesn't work for all words, but click on a word, it is going to give you an image that will hopefully depict what that word is. You'll also then notice in reading preferences that we have the ability to translate. So we can translate by word, and that's what's selected right now. So we're translating into Arabic, Saudi Arabia, which means if I click on this, I can hear the word in English.
Instructions.
And I can hear the word in Arabic.
تعليمات.
So I can do that one word at a time, or I can change the whole document. And then you'll notice I can toggle between the original and the Arabic version up here, and I can play it.
مسابقة ممارسة الفيزياء. مستحق 22 مايو 2000.
And you'll notice it also flips to this side of the page for Arabic. Now, Arabic actually has the parts of speech as well. So you'll see the purple and the blue. Not all of them will, but there are many, many languages here. You'll see there's a whole bunch of them. So I encourage you to use that, especially with an English language learner, or perhaps this can be helpful for you as well. And when I click that back button, I am still simply in the assignments tool. I have actually not gone very far. So if we do that same thing, if I take a look here, just so we can see this is assignment's a little more robust. Again, I can click on Immersive Reader and it's going to open up all the instructions for me in Immersive Reader. This also exists in Microsoft Word, in Microsoft OneNote. Anywhere that there's a lot of text on the page, you can find that Immersive Reader button. So if we head to the class notebook, for as an example, you will be able to see Immersive Reader as well. And hopefully, once this loads, I'll just quickly point out to you where you might find it in the OneNote notebook. This has nothing to do with the teacher. Your student can turn this on entirely on their own. So when we go to Terry's notebook, your teacher might have given some work they can distribute into your student's binder here. And if there's a nice big block of text right there, you'll see that, where did it go? When we head to view, one of the options here is Immersive Reader. And in our notebook, we're going to be able to open up that big block of text about geography in this nice, easy to read way. We'll head on back to posts. I will pause there and give it on back to Jeff.
Hey, thanks so much, Renee. Now, I'm not a salesperson for Microsoft because we've already bought all this and students have access to it. But in all of my years of teaching, some of the hardest things are working with ELL students who are new to Vancouver, new to Canada, and new to the culture. And teachers across the district are working so much with all of these new English language learners. And it's really tough on those kids when they go home and now they don't have access to their teachers. I honestly, when I saw Immersive Reader, I thought that that would be so valuable to those kids and frankly to lots of kids who are learning new languages in general, being able to use Immersive Reader across all of the different Microsoft platforms. So I'd encourage parents to share that around, and any teachers who are watching this as well, share it around. Immersive Reader. Make sure your students know where that is if they want to access it. As we're just moving towards the end of our session, I'd like to share my screen again. So just give me a second. Here comes the ending of my PowerPoint. Robyn, let me know when that goes live.
All right, you are good.
Great, thanks so much. And so we looked at teams, and I gave you a little bit of advice just from a parent and a teacher, educator. One of the best things that my kids and students who I've taught like, they love it that I'm interested in what they're doing. And so one of the things, parents, when you sit down, be as interested as you can. I know you probably already know the stuff, but just if you show that interest, kids love talking about what they're learning about. Now, our main mandate as LIT department is to help administrators and teachers and to have the district running. We just don't have enough people to offer parents unlimited support, but there's a lot of different groups that do. And so up on the screen right now, you'll see that I have Lunch and Learn Parent Guardian Edition. So there's a couple of links to Microsoft Distance Learning and Family Learning Centers. Microsoft has put up a ton of information. Vancouver School Board also has on our main website, it's called Learning from Home. You can browse to that. We're going to make sure that this video is published. It'll probably take about an hour by the time it renders and I'm able to put it up on our YouTube channel. There is a Vancouver School Board YouTube channel. And also there's other groups. Any parents who are out there, parents and guardians who are out there, you as having students in our district can be part of your PAC. There's even a larger organization called District PAC or DPAC. And DPAC is putting on an event. There's one on Thursday, that's this Thursday at 7 p.m. So if you go to vancouverdpac.org, you can get yourself invited to this. Now, this event that I'm hosting was more about Microsoft and Microsoft Teams and the tools that you have at your disposal to use for home learning. But the discussions are more around general education questions and the direction of what the district is in decisions, and what are some of the things that we're planning for through the summer and for the fall, knowing that it's very uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. And so if you'd like to be part of that discussion, I encourage you to join the Vancouver DPAC.org. And I'm going to just turn it over to Renee for any last comments about Microsoft resources for parents.
Thanks, Jeff. No, you have the two that I had mentioned. So Distance Learning with Office 365 is an article designed for parents. You'll notice on that site there's also a very obvious link on the same document for students, which of course would be a bit for a bit of a higher learning level student, but there's videos and documents and text in there that a student could use to understand how to use these tools as well. The Family Learning Center actually is hosted on a Microsoft site, but it has a ton of partner companies and resources and just fun things you can do that are educational in this sort of distance learning scenario. So there's online quizzes and dance parties and yoga videos and all kinds of good stuff you can take advantage of. So please feel free to check that out. Well, we're always available to help your teachers, and that's, I think, a big part of that. We know that it's difficult to reach out to parents. There's so many parents for any given school, but we are here every day for your teachers. So if your teacher, if you are close with your child's teacher and you know that there's they could use some help, by all means, let them know that there are resources available to them. Jeff and the VSB will always point them in the right direction, and we are really grateful that you took the time out of your day today to learn a bit about Microsoft tools and kind of take an interest in our online digital remote learning scenario and how we can make it better. So thank you so much on behalf of Robyn, myself, and the Microsoft team.
Robyn, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. You can put my video feed back up, please.
You are live.
Thanks so much. And so I would like to thank Renee and Robyn, who have helped us so much in our ability to help 5,000 teachers learn and use and teach and connect with all of the kids of the parents who are online right now, and parents and guardians. Thanks so much for spending an hour of your time learning about this. Again, we're going to put this on our YouTube channel, so feel free to share it around. The links in that final slide, I'll put them in the comments of that YouTube. And please let us know in that comment section if you would like more of these type of events. And if it is, then what kind of specific topics are you interested in? And with that, we're going to sign off and say goodbye. So thanks very much, everyone, and thanks for all of the help of the people on the Q&A. I appreciate it.